All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today, we're going to be looking at something
Yeah.
pretty wild. The 2024 U.S. election results. We've got this excerpt here from Pasted Text
Okay,
that
yeah,
we're going to be pulling from for this deep dive.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, just to cut to the chase, Donald Trump won a second term.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are pretty surprised by that,
Yeah, I mean that's not something you see every day.
especially for a Republican president. I
Right.
mean, the last time that happened was what?
It was back in 2004 with George W. Bush.
Yeah, George W.
Yeah,
Bush.
yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, looking at this excerpt, it seems like he had some pretty decisive wins too, like huge wins in some of these swing states,
Yeah.
like Georgia and North Carolina it mentions.
Mm-hmm.
And he was leading in Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are all really interesting because they have been such close races in the past.
Yeah, and swing states are always a huge deal in U.S. elections. I mean,
Right.
they can really make or break a candidate's chances.
Yeah, because they can go either way.
Right, exactly.
So if you can win over those swing states, you have a much better chance of winning the whole thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about these swing states.
Yes.
Like, what makes these particular states so important in a U.S. presidential election?
Well, it all comes down to the electoral college system. Basically, to become president, you need a certain number of electoral votes,
Uh-huh.
and each state gets a certain number of votes based on their population. So swing states with their larger populations,
Yeah.
they have a lot of electoral votes up for grabs. And because they could go either way, they're like the big prize. If you win
Yes.
those swing states, you're in a really good spot.
Gotcha. So it's interesting, though, leading up to the election, Trump had some concerns about the election being fair. Specifically, he mentioned those electronic voting machines.
Uh-huh.
Like, he seemed really worried about them.
Yeah.
So how do you think those comments look now, knowing that he actually
Yeah.
won?
Well, I mean, it is interesting because despite those initial concerns, he did eventually come out and say he was very confident in the results.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big shift from where he was before.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, at first, it seems like he was ready to challenge the results no matter what. But then once he won, he was totally fine with everything.
Right. I mean, that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it's almost like those old movies
Mm-hmm.
where the underdog comes out of nowhere and wins against all odds.
Yeah.
This election was kind of like that.
I mean, in a way, it was. It was close. It was contentious.
Yeah.
It really kept everyone on the edge of their seats.
It was wild.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be really interesting to see how this impacts the political landscape moving forward.
Absolutely.
I mean, how do the Republicans and Democrats adapt to this new reality? They're going to have to rethink their strategies, for sure.
For sure.
So I guess as we wrap up here, the big question is, how is this going to impact things on a global scale? I mean, Trump's foreign policy has been, pretty controversial to say the least. So what do you think?
Well, that's a really tough question. I mean, world leaders are probably scrambling right now trying to figure that out because with a second term, he might be even more emboldened to pursue his own agenda. It could be a huge shift in America's role in the world.
And that's something that everyone's going to have to watch very closely.
Absolutely.